What's going on, baseball fans? How are we doing? So in case you didn't know, the Mets hired Buck Showalter this past weekend, and while I do think that is a great fit, I still have 5 questions for Buck Showalter and the Mets. Let's go talk about it. Question number 1, what's going to happen with the playing time for some of these guys? If we take a look at the roster, well, they've had a great offseason so far, adding Max Scherzer. That was pretty good if you ask me. But taking a look at the position players, you've added Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, Starling Marte. You're also getting Robinson Cano back after being suspended last year for PEDs. So you got a lot of players on this roster right now. Look at guys like J.D. Davis and Jeff McNeil. They're on the bench. I mean, Jeff McNeil was a really good player just a couple of years ago. J.D. Davis was off to a great start last year, ended up getting hurt at one point, but the Mets, they got a lot of guys that are vying for playing time right now. Jeff McNeil, how is this guy going to be getting playing time? Is he going to be at second? Is Robinson Cano even still going to be on this roster by opening day? We'll have to wait and see. I mean, the universal DH will absolutely help, but what's going to be going on if you still have guys like J.D. Davis, Jeff McNeil? Who's going to be getting the most of the playing time here? I'm very intrigued about this. Question number 2, can Showalter get Lindor back on track? Lindor had a terrible first season with the Mets last year, only hit .230, had 20 home runs, but the on-base was kind of low, .322, only had a .412 slugging, a .103 WRC+. You expect better numbers from Lindor. The one good thing from Lindor is he did give you some good defense last year, 5.2 defensive runs above average, but the bat needs to pick it up. If we take a look at Lindor, though, in the first half, that's where he really struggled, only had a 97 WRC+. In the second half, though, it was a 118 WRC+, so definitely an improvement. He did get hurt at one point, but I'm wondering, with Lindor, are you going to be able to get a full good season out of this guy? He's very capable, obviously getting a massive contract, one of the better players in the game. So with Showalter, is he going to be able to put Lindor in the best situations possible? Where is he going to put him in the lineup? Well, if we're taking a look, it seems like batting second seems to be the best spot, as he had a 111 WRC+ compared to 89 in the third spot in the lineup. So with Showalter, is he going to be able to find a good spot for Lindor in the lineup? Or are they going to have a good game plan for him? What are they going to do with him when it comes to, taking pitches, when to swing, and so on? Showalter, I think he's going to be a huge part of getting Lindor back on track. I mean, these numbers definitely need to get better. He's really going to help the top of that lineup. If that's where he ends up batting the most, he's really going to help the Mets if he can get this batting average up and this on base up. My third question, can Showalter keep the Mets starting pitching strong all season? If we take a look at the Mets starting pitching last year, in the first half, they ranked 4th overall, a 2.98 ERA, a 3.36 FIP, a 3.42 xFIP, around 10 strikeouts per 9, 2.5 walks per 9, around a home run per 9. I mean, those are great numbers. Take a look at some of these numbers these guys were putting up. Stroman, he was phenomenal. Taijuan Walker, he was really good in the first half last year, but Jacob deGrom, he was just out of his mind in the first half. But the Mets, in the second half, they really crumbled. I mean, a lot of injuries were going on, so they just inconsistencies all the way around. Just wasn't good in the second half. They ranked 25th overall. ERA jumped up to a 4.99. FIP was a 4.84. Strikeouts per 9 went down. Walks per 9 went up a little bit. Home runs per 9 went up. I mean, take a look at some of these numbers here. Stroman was still fine in the second half, but you're not going to have Stroman this year. I mean, you did get Max Scherzer, so that is pretty good if you ask me. But, I mean, Rich Hill's not going to be on the Mets next year. He was okay for them, but like Tyler McGill, he struggled. Carlos Carrasco, that's also a big question mark. Can you get this guy back on track? They just really struggled with the starting pitching in the second half. It just completely fell apart. I think with the Mets, I mean, obviously you're getting a guy like Max Scherzer. That's pretty good, but can Taijuan Walker, stay on track in the second half next season? I mean, I think that's going to be huge. Actually, if we take a look at his numbers, sorry, I forgot to mention him a second ago. He was awful in the second half. He was 0-8 over 13 starts, 64 innings. He had an ERA of 7.13, 6.79 FIP. I mean, good grief, his numbers just completely, he had 2 different seasons last year. What the heck is going on with Taijuan Walker? Can Showalter keep him on track for a full season? That's going to be a big key for the Mets in 2022. My fourth question, can Showalter overcome his bullpen blunders of the past? If we take a look at the Mets bullpen, still a pretty good looking bullpen if you ask me. Last year, they ranked 10th overall, a 3.90 ERA, 4.05 FIP, around 10 strikeouts per 9, a little under 4 walks per 9. I would like for those to come down, around a home run per 9. Overall, solid numbers from start to finish, which is pretty surprising for the Mets bullpen. They've had their struggles over the last couple of years. But again, still a pretty good looking bullpen. You are missing Aaron Loop. That will be a loss. Hopefully they can go out and go get another guy for this bullpen. I think that would be tremendous. But you still got guys like Diaz, May, Lugo, Castro, Smith, Reed. Still think there's some pretty good guys. But with Showalter, he has had his struggles with the bullpen in the past. Going back to 2016, you had Zach Britton in the bullpen in the wild card game against the Blue Jays. He never even came into the game. He went 47 for 47 in saves that year. Never came into the game. Ubaldo Jimenez was on the mound in the bottom of the 11th. Edwin Encarnacion ended up hitting a walk-off homer, and that was that. If you go back to the 1999 National League Division Series between the Diamondbacks and the Mets, ended up bringing in Matt Manti, who was their closer, had a good season that year. Matt Manti ended up being in for 3 innings in this game, and he hadn't pitched 3 innings all year. He came into the 8th. In the 10th, the Mets ended up tying the game on a sacrifice fly, and then the game got ended when Mets catcher Todd Pratt ended the game with a walk-off homer. So leaving in Matt Manti way too long here. And then it doesn't end there. The 1995 ALDS between the Mariners and the Yankees he left closer John Wetland. He never even got him. So he did give up a grand slam earlier in the series. So I can maybe understand why you wouldn't bring him in. But that was your guy all year. Ended up leaving Jack McDowell in the game, 4-3 lead in the bottom of the 11th inning, and then ended up being one of the most legendary finishes of a game. Ken Griffey Jr. sliding in safe to win the game. So Buck Showalter has definitely had his problems with the bullpen in the past. Will he be able to overcome that with the Mets bullpen in 2022? And my fifth and final question, can Showalter manage all of these injuries? The big one, Jacob deGrom having elbow problems last year, ended up missing the second half of the season. Jacob deGrom, he's going to be a huge piece for the Mets, and I think everyone can agree with that. Obviously, Jacob deGrom, when he's healthy, the best pitcher on the planet. He's going to be key for the Mets this year. But you got some other guys too. David Peterson needed foot surgery. Lucchese's probably not even going to pitch this year. Zapucki, he had ulnar nerve transposition surgery, so who knows if he's even going to be available for opening day. JD Davis ended up getting surgery on his hand because of a torn ligament. If we also go take a look here, Carlos Carrasco, he just had a procedure done for some bone spurs in his elbow. He was not effective last season. So will he be able to keep him healthy? And then don't forget, Max Scherzer ended up having a dead arm in the playoffs. I mean, I think Scherzer's going to be fine, but will Showalter be able to manage, the playing time, the starts for some of these pitchers? Will he be able to keep these guys healthy over a full season? I think that's going to be a huge question mark. And Showalter and the Mets, if they want to have success, they're going to have these guys out on the field. I worry about the depth a little bit for the Mets starting pitching. They're very good on paper at the top. Taijuan Walker is a bit of a question mark, as well as with Carrasco. I mean, to me, I feel like they do need some more starting pitching depth. So that's going to be a huge question for Showalter and the Mets in 2022. So those are the questions that I have for Buck Showalter and the Mets for 2022. Tell me what you think down below. What questions do you have? But that's all I have for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.